Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Relentless Talk Radio. Today is Digital Evolution Thursday. It's Digital Evolution, an entrepreneur's guide to evolving online, where Brandy, Lawson from FieryFx and I dig into the evolution of my particular social media and digital presence, and use me as a guinea pig to kind of inspire you guys to do the same. So, Brandy, holy crap, how you doing?
Oh, pretty well, pretty well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, but I haven't got children at home, so I still have hair. I know you haven't got any hair under that baseball cap, right?
Well, I'm hanging on to my hair, but yeah, my sanity is by a thread. At some points I think there's not enough coffee, dark chocolate, and whiskey for this, but we're managing.
That's a riot. So, yeah, well, I've got plenty of chocolate.
Excellent.
Okay, my Ice of Delights. I totally love those. And I'm really excited to actually talk about email. Because I'll tell you, I have had some questions that you're going to answer for me today, and I'm going to be excited live because
yay!
YouTube, Gmail, Google thing, although I'm using it all the time and I got a handle on it probably better than most, there's still some intricacies of it that just drive me flipping nuts. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about that, okay? And
sure.
Well, the first thing is, I'm going to let you lead the conversation. We were going to talk about my email accounts and why email is so important. Why are we even bothering to have this conversation? I mean, really, email, that it's important? It is.
Well, so here, let me get my soapbox out just for a second about if you're running a business, you need a branded email address. That means don't hand me a business card that has an @Gmail, @Yahoo, @Hotmail, @AOL. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Because what it's telling people is that you're not really in business. Now, I know that it's cheap and it's easy. And I know when you're getting started out, we've all got started out somewhere, that you're minding your pennies and you're having to do it all yourself. And so you're looking for a way to just get started. So I appreciate that. But a branded email address means you're in business. So we talked about domains. Buy your domain and then set up your branded email address, like Brandy@FieryFx.com. Like, use your domain in your email address. So there's my little soapbox moment. Now, there's a lot.
I agree with you, because when I go to a networking event and I get a card and there's a guy telling me about something or a chick telling me about something they're really good at, and I get Brandy@AOL.com, I think, number one, there's two things. One, you don't look professional. And two, you're missing the opportunity to build your brand.
100%, all of that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how to do this. Now, there are lots of ways to set up email addresses. And one also clarification I want to make before we get too far into this is that an email address does not necessarily equal an email account.
Yes.
So I don't know how many email addresses you have, Michelle, but I have probably more than 20.
Yep. I haven't got that many, but I have some. Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point, I have actually two places that I check my email. One is for my work, one is professional, and one is personal. Because I have a domain for our family. All of our family has branded email addresses. Now that's more than anyone probably should do. But for work, I have multiple email addresses. And I even had to rebrand. Like, the company I started was Tech Girl, and I had techgirl.com, and I had all these Tech Girl email addresses. And when I changed my brand to FieryFx, I didn't just let them go. I just made them aliases for my new email addresses. So please understand that an email address is not necessarily equal to an email account.
Exactly.
And there's two ways to set up email addresses that don't have an account. One is an alias. That is just another name for the email account that you're using, alias. The other way is a forwarder, which is an email address that lives out on the internet that you're pointing to another email address. So alias and forwarders are something you should know about.
And how do you set the alias up? Because I know how to forward, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But how do you set the alias up?
So aliases are set up within your email system. So if you are using G Suite, if you are using Office 365, if you're using Zoho Mail, like those can all be set up in there as aliases.
Why would you set up an alias over a forward?
So forward relies on your email going somewhere and being forwarded somewhere else. An alias, you would set up an alias if you're operating out of that box as two different identities. So if you are operating as that identity.
Oh, so if I had Mick at MichelleMicalizzi.com as an alias within my Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com, would it actually respond from Mick at that was worth the price of admission right there, because I have been forwarding.
Okay, so
For
no.
many years, I have been forwarding, and you know, it's worked out for me, but I have had that question moving forward, because as I build each one of my brands, okay, so let's just talk about this for a second for folks. So when you're, this is a good time to kind of explain what this is to people who don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you're forwarding, you're going into your domain. For me, I go into GoDaddy and I create a forwarding account for Mick at MichelleMicalizzi.com. And that email is going to go to GoDaddy, and then it goes into my Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com, which is my one email that I check, okay? But when I respond to that email that came to Mick at MichelleMicalizzi.com, it comes from Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com. And this has been something that's driven me crazy. So as I start to build more strength with each one of my brands, I don't want to confuse people. So what I'm going to be doing after this telephone call, and I just flip and love this, Brandy. I just love you. You just totally answered a question I had no idea about. And this is someone who worked at GoDaddy in the email department, like has been in this industry for a long time. It's a little nugget. Okay. I'm super excited about it. I'm going to go into Mick at Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com, and every single one of the emails that I have forwarding to that account is going to become an alias, so that when I respond to that, it's coming from the same brand. That is flipping genius.
So I think that's a great distinction. So one way. So when I went from Brandy at TechGirl.com to Brandy at FieryFx.com, when I switched everything over to being FieryFx, Brandy at TechGirl.com is an alias for Brandy at FieryFx.com. So if you have like two domains that you're using for your business, like Michelle might, you could put that as an add-on domain, excuse me, for your email, and then you can create alias addresses for all of your existing accounts.
And so if I'm already looking, because I gotta. So if I'm gonna set the alias up, I actually have to go to my Microsoft account that's on my desktop, as opposed to my email editor, which is my Outlook account on my desktop.
So yes, you're going to need to go to your administration for your email. So now let's quickly talk about what you're talking about. So you can set up free email accounts all over the internet, and those are individual accounts. But if you're in business, I highly, I can't even highly recommend enough that you go pay for a service, either Office 365, which is Microsoft, or G Suite, or even Zoho Mail. Like Zoho Mail has a fine solution. Do not use your web host email. Now, I know when you buy hosting for websites, they throw in email addresses. As someone who managed millions of email address accounts, please, for the love of God, do not do that, because web hosting and email hosting are two very, very different services. I know they both have hosting in them, but they're very different services requiring very different expertises. And if you want your emails to be delivered and you want your emails to get to you, don't use a web host for email.
Okay, so if I get my web hosting from GoDaddy, I actually buy Office 365 through GoDaddy. So that's not web hosting. I purchased.
So yes, that's two different services. Now, GoDaddy was very smart to partner with Microsoft, who has deep experience in email hosting,
right,
and offer those services. So I don't care if you choose Google, which is the G Suite. That G Suite is their paid business email hosting,
Right.
or Office 365 or Zoho. Each of them does cost money, and it's about $5 to $6 a month for an email account. Another reason that you need to get really clear that email addresses don't equal email accounts. You can start off just paying for one and having multiple email addresses. And then maybe sometime later, you branch some of those other email addresses off to other accounts when you have more members on your team.
This would have saved me so much time, because when I rebranded if ever I have to rebrand again, I might have to beat myself, but
I'm here.
fearlesslydeliver.com, I called GoDaddy and said, okay, what do I do? And they're like, you have to buy a new account. They should have told me, you go into Microsoft, create an alias, and it would go to the same account. And then I wouldn't have had to migrate all those emails over. That was huge time consuming. This is like a life-changing thing. If you have a brand that you bought your email under me.mycompany.com, and you realize that you have to do me.adifferentcompany.com, you can keep the same email address by creating up an alias and not lose 15 years of history of email.
Well, so this is back to the account versus address.
Right.
Even though every single email account must have an email, at least one email address, email addresses don't have to have an account, and they can be switched out. So if you think of it like if you think about the post office, and there's all those post office boxes, the box is the account.
Yeah.
And you can put a different address on it, or you can put multiple addresses on it. But the account can stay the same, and you can change the address on the outside.
But you can create an alias for that one account, right?
Yes.
So,
you can have multiple addresses.
At UPS, where all of Michelle Micalizzi goes, Michelle Micalizzi LLC goes, Micalizzi Enterprises goes. So I wish I had known this. I went 2 years ago. It would have saved me like huge amounts of time on customer support. This is a huge, huge story about the evolution of brands. If you have several brands, or you've changed your brand, this is what's going to solve the problem of having to figure out how to migrate your email from one Office 365 or one G Suite to another. So thank you. You just totally saved me from more work moving forward. But more importantly, it's confusing for people. They emailed Mick at MichelleMicalizzi.com. Why are they hearing back from Mick at MicalizziEnterprises.com? So this is awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. And all the years that I worked at GoDaddy in focusing on email, no one ever told me that.
Yeah, it is.
So that's huge.
So there's that. Also, a shortcut here is if you are thinking about needing to move email systems, if you are trying to make a decision about this, if you're thinking about how to structure email addresses, it's probably just worth your time to reach out and talk to an expert quickly, because either you could get an insight like I just gave Michelle about aliases, or the other thing is that I work with another company that does our migrations for us. So we've needed to either set up new people in G Suite. We primarily use G Suite for a lot of reasons. If you're a Microsoft person, then stick with Microsoft. Like it's kind of like pick a camp and go with it.
Yeah.
But we can migrate. Like there are really, really good tools, and the people who are good at this can pick up 15 years worth of email from one place and put it into a new home, and you will never even know the difference. Like it will be a seamless transition. So
that's really good to know. It's super good to know, because I would have loved to have been able to hand that off to somebody. Just now I've met you now, so now I know for the next time. But why do you like G Suite? And
I like G Suite.
Can you migrate from a Microsoft account to a G Suite?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes. So I was a hardcore Outlook user. And if you are still a hardcore Outlook user, or like this is just your comfort zone, then there's no problem sticking with Office 365.
There's pluses and minuses to all of them. You know what I mean?
100%. There's no one like golden answer. And also technology is constantly changing. So it's always like, well, this is better for this now. Oh, well, then they just added this feature. So it's really about where you're most comfortable and what you'll use. The reason I choose G Suite and the reason I really like it is because the Gmail app is an open app. So I have a lot of other things that live inside my Gmail that make my life very productive. For example, my CRM, I use Streak. Streak is an add-on for Gmail. So it's all incorporated in there. I can see everything inside of my Gmail window. There's snippets and send later. There's just so much innovation that can happen on the Gmail side because it's an open platform. People can develop add-ons for it. I also then use.
Let's tell people what open platform is, because as geeky people kind of know that, but.
So open platform means that Gmail has made the ability to integrate with their code available to developers. Microsoft has two up point-ish. I don't want to say that you definitely can get add-ons for Outlook. An Outlook web app, so where you pull up outlook.com and you see your email there, is improving. But Gmail started as a web app, which means that it has a lot of time advantage over Outlook. And just a brief history on email. In the beginning, there was only email, and email had to do everything, which is transfer files and be the conversation. But now there's so much more than email. We have Trello for project management. We have OneDrive for file management. Like, we have so many more options. Email no longer has to be all things to all people.
So just so we let people know what that is, because we forget, because people are tuning in, what the hell did you say? The Drive is like the online folder. The Google Drive,
we have online file storage. Right.
And then the other one, what's the Microsoft one?
Oh, OneDrive?
OneDrive is the same online kind of cloud-based folder that teams can use the same folder. So you don't just have the folder on your computer. Your teams from anywhere can get into that folder. Other online folders are Dropbox, and so Google Drive, Dropbox are some of the big ones, and OneDrive is Outlook's version of the cloud folder that allows teams to go in and look at all the folders together, and depending upon how your settings are set up, they can edit or take out or put in, etc.
Right. So we have specialized things that have come along. An email no longer has to be the only thing. Also, in the beginning, online storage was very expensive. Bandwidth was very limited. So that's why Outlook was so revolutionary as a desktop app, because it did a lot of work to make sure that you could do your email and not have to rely on always being connected or having a lot of online space.
I just remember being at the company I was at when I was in grad school in 2006, and you were only given like a little bit of space, and then every couple of months you had to decide like what you were going to get rid of. It's like, I don't know. When I use my email I probably get 500 emails a week, I kid you not. Between junk, clutter, purposeful, family, business, right? So I can't possibly remember all that stuff. So I have folders on my email where I'm organizing. Okay, here's all my Venvana emails are here. And I just go ahead and I put them there so they're easy for me to find. I'm not searching, and I kind of have an idea of what's happening. It's a little better. So I probably think like every 6 months or so, I'll go in and like throw out. I'll just take 2 or 3 hours and say, okay, what can I throw out? And then
So here's the deal. We live in a different world now. Yeah. We live in a very different world where online storage is cheap as hell. Yeah. It's almost free. In fact, in some cases it is. And bandwidth is always available. Like, you can always be connected. And so that the reason for having things
is no big deal. I'm more thrown out at this point because I don't want to clutter my head up with old crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally understand that. So a couple things have shifted. Is one, I don't think you actually need to file emails anymore. You just archive them. You just get them out of your inbox. And the other reason I like Google is, well, gee, what does Google do really well? Search. So my ability to search my inbox is incredible. And I don't actually worry about filing anything. I just move it out of my inbox. And if I ever want to find it, I absolutely 100% can find it because my search capability is off the charts. So I don't worry about spending any mental energy on organizing.
I'm not as anal about it as I used to be because I know I can search for it.
Yes. So that's changed. The other thing is that a desktop app, so Apple Mail or Outlook, or like even the Windows Mail, those apps are actually, I feel like, constraining now because they limit how you can interact with your email. And also anything you do on the desktop is not reflected when you go on your phone. So
but I have Outlook desktop and I have Outlook app on my phone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But to your point, I do believe that the search capacity is not what it is at Google, which is why I file still.
Right.
So this might be a reason for that I will eventually, when I have 2 seconds, migrate over to
2 hot seconds. So,
right?
what I'm advocating is that web apps, the day of web apps is here. You no longer need a desktop app. So I even try to get clients stop using Apple Mail. I'm like,
I started using Apple Mail 2 years ago when it started to break because it was
right.
Yeah, it was conflicting with Outlook, and I just that was a $300, tech guy coming over, and I finally like, screw it, let's just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. So I want to make sure we hit all of our topics.
Yes.
So we wanted to talk about struggles, which we talked about a couple today.
Yep. And then, we add email addresses over time. Also, I want to make it really clear, you no longer have to ever get rid of an email address. You remember those days where like, my email address has changed, start using, like, you don't actually have to do that. You can keep all of your email addresses. You will just use aliases and it will be fine.
Yeah.
Or forwarders and it will be fine.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked about getting started. We talked about Gmail. Okay, let's delve a little bit into Google accounts. So here is the other thing that's happened is over time, these companies like Hotmail and Microsoft and Gmail and Google, these companies have grown. They grew from just offering you an email address to offering you a whole lot more services. And then they acquired companies, and then they tried to figure out how to try to make it easy for users to manage their accounts. So the first thing I'm going to say is that everybody probably already has a Google account. Now, a Google account gets set up by either you set up a Gmail address, or you set up a YouTube account, or you needed to access, somebody tried to share something with you on Google Drive, and they shared it with your Hotmail address. So you created a Google account with your Hotmail address. So a Google account is simply that you have a username and password to access something that Google owns. And when you create that Google account, Google, trying to make it easy, gives you access to all of the rest of their things. So if you created a YouTube account and you've been using your Hotmail address to log into YouTube and manage your YouTube channel, you have a Google account. Even though you haven't set up Gmail, you still have a Google account, which means you have access to Google Calendar and Google Drive.
YouTube.
Right. If you didn't know, Google owns YouTube.
Yeah. Google owns YouTube. Yeah.
Yes. So you probably have more Google accounts than you are aware of, and they don't all have @Gmail addresses. And then to add chaos to complexity, if you set up a G Suite, like if you paid Google for your branded email, those are also Google accounts, which have access to YouTube channels. So the first thing I think to help people get clear on is that a Google account doesn't require a Gmail address, but all Gmail addresses are Google accounts.
Got it.
All right. Whew, there's Google. So what if you had a Gmail address, you set up your Google account, and then you got your business email, which is now a G Suite, and you want to be able to edit. Like, you don't want to keep, at some point we all have multiple personality disorder when it comes to Google, and you don't want to have to keep flipping between personalities. So in YouTube, you can grant editor access to other Google accounts. So what you would do is you would log in with your original Google account. You would go to your YouTube permissions, and then you would give admin editor access, I can't remember which one it is, to your G Suite address, to your branded business address. Because then you can just be logged in as your branded business address and be managing all the properties that you need to manage.
And you can also continue to keep the assets that are under the separate Gmail account separate.
Yes, and your Gmail account will continue to be separate.
So when you go to YouTube, and you're in originally my YouTube channel was set up under fearlesslydeliver@gmail.com. But then I'm in the pull down. So
you're going to go to settings.
Okay.
And
then connected accounts.
There.
Right?
They change it like about every 6 months. They change what they call the thing. So
I'll have to go in there and take a look at. Okay, cool.
So this is something obviously easily Googleable. There's definitely directions, but basically you're just adding an administrative or editor user to your YouTube account. So this is also true of many other things like Google Analytics. If somebody set up Google Analytics for you, that also uses Google accounts to manage access. So there's many things out there that are using Google accounts.
So I have Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com. I can make that email an editor of my Relentless Talk Radio YouTube channel.
As long as you have a Google account set up under that entity, yes.
Okay. So I have to make sure that I think I do, but I have to make sure that I do.
And once you discover all of your accounts, it's a good idea to like document that somewhere, because I worked in this a long time. I have a good head for it. I will sometimes forget all of the things that I have. So I document them.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, that goes back to the password. What was the word for
password keeper? Yes.
Yeah,
so password keeper, 100%.
You use something different, but yeah, I mean, it saves my butt a lot actually, because I mean, let's be honest. Like, if you were to really think about how many passwords and how much data we're supposed to. I mean, I remember my first telephone number when I was 9, 775-0490. I can't remember my boyfriend's cell phone number. It's retarded. I mean, like, that's a bad word. That's a bad, not PC word, but it really is like crazy, right? That I do that. Okay. It's a crazy that I can't remember things that are happening right now, but I can, and it's because we have so much information. So having a password keeper is super smart. And it's not because you're not smart. It's because you are smart. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but there's only so many things you can remember. I mean, just remember people's names. I have, I don't know, 150,000 people in my network. So, I mean, how do I remember names? It's kind of tough, right? So write it down, get a password keeper, have a notebook that you hide so that people don't break into your house and steal it, I guess. But
let me be clear about what I mean by documenting your accounts. I'm not saying put your passwords in there. I'm saying like YouTube channel created under yada yada, editors added, blah blah blah. And just because eventually it might not just be you who needs to know this information. So that's another reason to write it down so that it can be operational for other people to do stuff on your behalf.
Well, eventually you want to delegate stuff, which is the reason why I'm putting everything that I'm doing in social media in Airtable so I can hand it off to my admin, right? And my dad just passed away. My dad passed away at 86 years old, and he had probably 40 passwords and accounts of things. And he was not tech savvy. So if I were to fall down and go boom, someone would be super hard pressed. So in my will, I have the password in my will with my attorney to my LastPass for my executor to be able to go in there and get all my stuff. So that it makes it easier for them to be able to do what I need to do. What they'll need to do for me when I'm no longer here to do it for myself. So I mean, it's a really important part. If you sell your business, you want to be able to give the new business owner all the passwords and the reason you set things up. It can't just, you can't be the keeper of all the information in your head. You must document. I know people. I know it's painful. It takes time. It's annoying, but you have to do it. It's real. Here's my soapbox thing. People that don't organize things in a way that's findable later, or at least attempt to, because you're constantly fine tuning it, but it's super important that you do that.
Right. Yep. Very important.
So I want to make sure we could go on for like 3 years on this topic. I think who would think that email was such an exciting topic, right? I mean,
So exciting.
Who would think? So, can you actually change you can't change the email that you set your YouTube channel up under, but you can add other editors, right?
Yes. So again, this is ever changing on the YouTube side, but as of this moment, to the best of my knowledge, you cannot change the originating account for a YouTube channel. Like you can't pick up a channel and move it to another account.
I was
But
hoping
you can,
it was different, but you know.
but you can change the access so that you can manage it from the accounts that you're actively logged into.
Half of those and 1/6 of the other. That's why they're not going to change it, because why would they need to, right? So I got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I think we the only thing we haven't gone over is kind of like what my story is with my email and how it came to be, and then we'll just close with that. Whenever I have an idea, the first thing I do is I go buy the domain and I get the Gmail address. It's the first thing I do. So I have a brand called Tavis Yoga that's going to be a yoga retreat brand that I have been sitting on for a couple of years. And I have Tavis Yoga. I have Tavis Yoga at gmail.com. I have Tavis Yoga for all my social media accounts, and there they sit. So if you're sitting at a bar stool somewhere and you get this crazy idea that you're going to invent some crazy thing, go ahead and do a brand name search, quick down and dirty, find out if anybody else is using it. And if you have a cool name that you want, just go buy it. I mean, it's like, depending upon when you're buying, it can be $1 or $13 or $18 to buy a domain. You might as well buy it. If you don't need it, you just let it go in a year. I mean, people drop $20 on stuff all the time. So I always go get the brands. And then what I've been doing so far is I have the one email that, like yourself, my business email, Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com is the only email that I check. I do have Gmail that has kind of garbage going into it that I check like once every 6 months or so, that I don't want to have going into my regular email because it's not that important, but I want to give them something. So I might give them one of my Gmail accounts because it might be important later. But usually what happens is I just let Gmail, with all that garbage and the stuff that's happening, just going there. I just don't even pay attention to it. So I have every other brand that I have is currently, as of today, it'll be different next week, forwarding to Michelle at MicalizziEnterprises.com. And I'll be changing that, making them all aliases, because all of the brands that I'm working on this year, I love the fact that I can answer from them. So I have emails that are branded for every single brand that I've ever had. And it goes into the one email. So I'm not checking a bazillion different emails, but it's important to have. And then I have emails like, I have the email intrinsicoptimist@gmail.com. If I just don't want people to know my name or my business, I just want them to have a random way to communicate with me, or they don't know who I am for whatever reason, I use that one. I mean, sometimes you're going to an event and you have no idea where that email is going. Who's going to see it, or I don't want all the junk that's going to come with it, but I'm kind of curious. I'll use that generic name because I am intrinsically optimistic about the world. And I
Very good.
Optimist.com too. I bought that too because I just kind of like the idea of it.
So I might recommend that for sure. Always buy the domain.
Yeah.
I don't think you need because you're creating a Google account for every single thing that you've got. So I don't think that's necessary because you can always set up an email address. So you could buy the domain and then set up an email address that's like Michelle.
About that. Like, so let's say I have Relentless Talk Radio at gmail.com. Let's say somebody is just being an idiot and they want to somehow infiltrate my population and pretend to be me. They could go get Relentless Talk Radio at gmail.com and people might think it's me. So I always buy it. I always hold it. I don't use it, but I hold it just so that I don't have that kind, because I worked in women's shelters in New York City for 3 years when I first got out of school. People are tricky. So I just get it so that nobody else can have it. I don't necessarily use it. I do it so nobody else can take it.
I totally understand that. But then there's also well, what about Hotmail and what about Outlook.com and what about Yahoo.com? I mean, it's the same as
Yeah, you
true
can
for
go
all.
on forever with it, but I think Gmail is like the most commonly used one, and people know that I use Gmail, so that's the one that I kind of draw the line there. But
Yeah, so that's certainly a point, and do you. People would know, like if somebody sent an email address from a Gmail trying to be me, they'd be like, oh no, that's no way, because even my personal is not a Gmail address. But I do have an old as the hills Hotmail address that I use for like if I have to sign up, and I've even created a specific alias in my business that I use when I sign up for accounts, so that's basically segregated.
I think I probably have a Hotmail and a Yahoo out there somewhere at some point that's collecting stuff. I could have won $1 million and not gotten it. Shoot.
Could have.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That'd been so great going into this COVID thing. Well, listen, Brandy, you and I could talk forever about this stuff because we're geeks and goobers. We really are. I love that I've met another geek that will hang out with me in a crazy hat and talk about ridiculously boring things called email, and we're excited about it. That's really awesome. Yeah. But you answered a lot of really great questions for me today, and I'm sure you did for the other folks that are listening. Awesome. Next week we're going to be at the same time at 9:00, or that next week on the in 2 weeks, right? On the first and third Thursday, our topic is going to be, oh my God, I've already Googled myself. I do all the time anyway, and we're going to take a look at what comes up.
Well, and we're also going to talk about the importance of knowing what's there and how to interpret it.
Exactly. And also, people have Googled me and I'm like, oh my God, I know I'm not anonymous. I'm really not. And it's kind of funny too, the things that come up first. And it's also really good information to have about what would I rather come up first and how do I tweak my SEO so that changes. So right now I'm just content out there, but we'll definitely want to talk about that too.
So yes, and we'll also talk about there's not just one way to Google yourself. So
okay, see, I don't know. I can't wait. Now you got me waiting. You're gonna maybe wait 2 weeks for that. This is exciting. People say I'm bored of COVID. I'm like, how could you be bored? There's so much going on. Oh my God, I don't know how to do one thing with my email. I just learned today. This is great. Awesome. Well, hey, Brandy, have a good rest of your day. Good luck not maiming your children.
Thank you.
Just be grateful you haven't got a newborn. Scott Warren, who we do the video lab on the first and third Thursday at 7 a.m., he has a brand new baby and a 5-year-old. So it could be a little crazier, right?
Yep.
All right. Sure. See you later. Have a good rest of your day. And thank everybody for listening in. See you later. All right, everybody. That was the end of the, I think, third Digital Evolution episode. Let me think. This is the fourth one. This is the fourth episode of Digital Evolution. We're here every Thursday at 9:00. We try to go half an hour. Just like today, we went a bit over. And we talk about evolving digitally online and some of the little crazy questions that people are missing out on. So I hope to see you back here on the third Thursday of on the first Thursday of May. It's, what the most Googled thing is right now? What day is it? Because we're all just like one day streaming into the next, isn't it? All right, everybody, have a really great day.